All right, folks, welcome back to the XTS Nashville Custom Shop. We got another board that we just wrapped up doing.
Woo!
Eric, you want to... I got to say, this is a sharp board. Even if all these pedals sounded terrible, I would say this is a good board.
It'd still be cool.
So, fortunately, for the owner of this board, none of these pedals sound terrible at all. So
no, they're all pretty cool.
Walk us through this thing.
Well, start here at our interface.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some tricks we'll talk about in just a minute.
Sounds good.
Come in here, we go into the tuner, and we did one of these on our last board. These are getting more popular.
Mm-hmm.
Strobo Stomp, they have a good buffer in them if you would like to use it.
Now with the Strobo Stomps, I remember when those first came out, and it seemed like there's people who like understood how to use them, and then people who it was impossible. And they got sold because they had a DI on them. A lot of people who were just acoustic guitar players got them, and it seemed to me like half of the strictly acoustic guitar players had no idea how to use them, and they were very quickly back onto their Boss TU2s. Would you say that this is universally usable, or is it still going to be a matter of taste for some folks?
If you were used to a Boss pedal, you're not going to like this one. But so many more strobe tuners are out these days. Turbo, the Polytunes can be in that mode. I think that enough people are used to it now that they're willing to go with it because they're so much more accurate.
Yeah, so what's your kind of take? You've spent a lot of years as a tech for lots of people. Is a strobe, you got to have it? It's like do or die? Or is it something that it's nice to have? Or do you even care, like in your work box, do you care?
I toured for years with a Boss TU2, and that was my only tuner I had, and I gave people guitars that were in tune. All that to say, I then teched for a band that had a lot of acoustic instruments, and I was frequently set up behind the sub stacks where you can't tune an acoustic guitar. So I purchased a Peterson strobe tuner and then was able to work.
Gotcha.
They read better and they're quicker.
Gotcha.
But if you've got the time and you're not buy a bunch of bass amps, you're probably you can make do. All that to say, this is cool. And then we go out of here. This is a phaser, which is cool.
Something's up with that.
Yeah, I kind of assumed it was just a Phase 90-ish type thing, and it is, but it's got some other tricks that are very cool. So I rather enjoyed that.
Yeah,
jam pedals.
Jam pedals, gotcha.
Then we go to the compressor here.
Mm-hmm.
This thing's cool. From Dry Bell, they make very nice things. And Petty John, those are good as well. And then we are down to this Blues Power. I always forget the name of this company.
Jesse Davies makes those.
He-
King Tone is, I think, is the
Kingtone.
name of the company.
That dude is killing it right now. Everything he puts out is fire, as the kids say these days.
I hear you.
Then we have the Stratosphere Sing and Drive. And then we come down to a Sensei here, which is another dual channel gain box.
Mm-hmm.
Then the GTO.
From our friend Guthrie Trapp.
Yep. Gain Changer. These are always
Great.
classic.
Underrated pedal.
Very underrated. Another Dry Bell pedal, the Engine. It's the first time I'd seen one of these. It's pretty cool.
Me too.
Really everything on
What's
here is cool.
that? I see that it says Foundation preamp. I haven't played this one yet. How does that name sort of jive with what the thing actually does?
You could call it your Foundation preamp.
Thank you. Thank you. That's perfect.
It changes.
I feel enriched.
It's the character of your thing.
So it's an ampy thing?
I think that's what it's going for.
Okay,
yes.
got it.
I'd not seen one before either, but it is pretty cool.
Okay, cool. The engine?
Space Charged, another
Uh-huh.
drive pedal. I really enjoyed that one as well. And
Very
it's got
nice.
a trick extra boost feature in there that's kind of nice.
And that's crazy tube circuits, right?
Crazy tube circuits.
Okay.
Then we're up to the interface again.
So we're going back to the interface. Why is that?
Because this client wanted to be able to use this with an amp that has an effects loop and then also an amp with no effects loop.
What is an effects loop?
So it lets you put effects after the preamp of your amplifier.
What is a preamp?
So many good questions. So it's a little silly, but when you have a guitar amp, it kind of has two amps in it. It's got a preamp that brings your very tiny guitar pickup signal up to a given level. That's where your tone shaping is, your distortion or overdrive characteristics.
If you're fortunate enough.
Yeah, and then it goes into the power amp, which is the thing that then amplifies that up enough for the speaker to do something with.
So the preamp's sort of the dirt box in the amp.
Yeah, you could look at it like that. But yeah, sometimes you want to put delays, reverbs after your gain.
So that's what you're trying to avoid. If you had like a Bogner or something like that, you wouldn't necessarily, it's not wrong, they don't come and put you in tone jail if you put delay in front of your amp's preamp.
That's what Van Halen did.
Yep.
That's what Jimmy Page did. So,
but if you're expecting your amp's dirt to work to respond to delay and stuff the way that these guys are,
yes,
then you probably want to utilize that effects loop if your amp has one.
Yeah, I love effects loops.
So what's special about the flexi face thing? Like why is that something we do?
We do it this way because you can do this with kind of the unclever way is just to put 4 jacks on there, and you could just run a little jumper.
Sure.
And then
sometimes people use switches.
Yeah, you could do switches as well. We use a certain type of jack that does the switching for us. Mm-hmm. So this always goes to the front end of your amp. This always goes to your guitar. This always goes to effects loop of your amp.
That's kind of my favorite bit of it is that everything always goes to the place that it's labeled.
Yeah, it's never, because if you did it with just regular jacks, this is either your amp or it's the return.
Sure.
Depending on how you've got it set up. So the beauty of this is, I have my Bogner today. I plug in 2 cables and I'm good to go.
Yep.
I have my Deluxe today. I just don't use these jacks.
Exactly.
And everything goes where it's supposed to.
Okay, so this ended sort of the preamp block.
Yes.
Okay, so preamp block goes up to the flexi face, and that gets us into the loop effects block.
Yeah.
Which includes what on this board?
We come back in, we have this Free the Tone Tri-Avatar, which, who doesn't love a stereo chorus? Tri-stereo chorus.
They are pretty cool.
They're wonderful.
And this has got presets.
It does.
Is this one midiable or no? I can't remember.
You know what? It is midiable.
Cool.
Yeah, they're pretty slick. Their graphic is always really nice too.
I think it's very austere in the best kind of way.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Volante, which is a pretty crazy delay pedal. You can kind of do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I think if you're willing to spend the time.
If you're clever, let me say that, if you're a creative person, you probably are going to have fun with it.
I'm not, but I still like this pedal, even though I'm not a creative person. I was telling Eric when we were trying this out, one of the first YouTube videos I ever saw was a guy playing a Strat through a Benson Echo Rec, and it haunted me. And so when this pedal came out, I was super excited because that's kind of what that's going after. Mm-hmm. So Volante.
Flint.
Okay.
Mercury 7.
Great.
Back to the amp.
Back to the amp. And this is all mono, right?
Yes, this is just a mono rig.
Killer. And what are we doing for power on this one?
There's 2 supplies here. The Zuma, the big one, and then it's chained up here to the little Ojai R30 thing.
And that's I think one of the highlights of the Strymon system is this extensibility. So you guys have seen us do rigs before that were multiple power supplies. I think this is probably the slickest way to do it, where that way you don't have like multiple, mains powers coming in and stuff like that. And you can see here, Eric does this on just about every rig. These labels say where each thing goes, so that if you think you have an issue with power here, you can, instead of just pulling everything out and seeing which lights turn off, you can just go right to the one. And I think on this rig you had to double up something, right?
Yeah.
Which was that? Was that the Blues
These
Power and the Stratosphere? So you want to be careful as you gang stuff up. Fortunately, we've got plenty of experience here knowing kind of what doesn't play well and what does play well. In fact, this one we had a conversation about what would be the best ones to gang, and these particular 2 pedals you could gang. Mm-hmm. But I think one thing that we talked about is that maybe, just maybe, because of the same form factor, maybe this would swap for an Archer, And an Archer, because it's got a charge pump in it, maybe isn't the best thing to gang up with other things. So we left these two alone.
It's a bad thing to gang up with other
Yes,
things.
typically. So we left these two alone, and these two guys, which are nice in the sense that they're not putting crap out on the power supply lines. You can read more about that stuff. We did an article for Premier Guitar. We talked more about that, and you guys can. It was in the State of the Stomp, so you guys can check that out if you want to know more about that. So another great board build. Like I said, I think it's a really pretty board, and in addition to that, it's very pro and sounds pretty great. Holler at us if you need something like this. Talk to you then. Bye.